Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Please come closer, inshallah. Those who are participating, those who are leaving can continue listening online, inshallah, or if they're having conversations outside, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa kafa wa salamun ala ibadihi alladhina istafa amma ba'd. So yesterday we began the discussion about two opposite scenarios, and we covered the first one, and we're covering inshallah the second one tonight. After we completed the discussion on the benefits of Asbāb al-Nuzūl, yesterday's discussion was Asbāb al-Nuzūl, meaning causes of revelation. So there are some scenarios where there are multiple causes of revelation for one ayah. So different hadith are there, different stories are there, and they all lead to one ayah. This is just to set the stage for tonight's discussion. Every night there are new faces, and they may be lost, like what is the context, what's going on. That's why I'm repeating this. So I apologize to those who are the regulars. This is multiple asbab, multiple causes, different ahadith are there, and they all point to the revelation of one ayah. We gave the example about the ayah from Surah Al-Nahl. What is the cause of revelation of this ayah? There was an incident that happened in the Battle of Uhud in the 3rd year, and there was an incident that happened in the 8th year in Fath Makkah. Two incidents that are separate, and both of them lead to the revelation of this ayah. There was a story of Hamza radiallahu anhu here, there was a story of the Ansar getting upset here in Makkah, and how both lead to the revelation of this ayah. And we came to the conclusion that the scholars have mentioned that this ayah is so important that it was revealed twice. And if there is an objection that, wait a second, wouldn't that be redundant? Then that was where we ended answering that objection. So tonight, inshallah, it is the exact opposite scenario, where there is one single incident that occurs, and because of the same incident, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals multiple ayat. One incident becoming a means of multiple ayat being revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these are proven through sahih, authentic narrations. As mentioned here, a single event may be the cause of revelation of 2 ayat or even 3 ayat. In the example that will be presented, there are actually 3 ayat. There is no issue with this. There is no cause for alarm. If there is a particular question that arises, like in the case that we will study today, in the example of Umm Salamah radiallahu anha asking a question, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responded to her question 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, multiple times, why would there be any problem with that? This does not contradict the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in guiding people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is clarifying the truth. In fact, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's personal noble practice was, now we are moving from Quran to Hadith. When he was speaking, he would also repeat things 3 times if it was important. كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يكرر ثلاثا. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would repeat it 3 times. And convincing us whenever the convincing is required. So it can be an effective means of persuasion in a clear form of explanation. So moving forward, inshallah, we see Umm Salamah radiallahu anha. Umm Salamah radiallahu anha is the wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. She was formerly married to Abu Salamah radiallahu anhu, and after he passed away, she got married. She was a widow. She completed her iddah, then she married Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. There is a beautiful story there. Maybe we'll stick to this one right now. But each one of these Sahaba, of course, they have their beautiful biographies. So over here, in any case, and we see there's an example of a single cause leading to revelation of multiple ayat. One is that is narrated by Hakim in his Mustadrak in Tirmidhi that Umm Salamah radiallahu anha said, Ya Rasulullah, I do not hear that Allah is mentioning women in relation to migration. Meaning when they perform the hijrah, there are ayat regarding the hijrah and the muhajirun, but Allah Ta'ala did not mention about the muhajirat, the women who are doing hijrah. So this was a question of Umm Salamah radiallahu anha, and this led to the revelation of multiple ayat. And all of them are addressing her concern, her question, what are the rules of women, what are the rewards for women, and all of these ayat, they ensure that there's equal recognition in matters of iman and a'mal, in faith and deeds. So let's take a look at these ayat. Just to understand her question itself, based on the current context of gender roles and feminism, etc., we may come to the conclusion that she was objecting from the perspective of how come, why aren't we mentioned? Na'udhu billah. That is why we need to clarify, it was not coming out of anger, but rather it was coming out of a genuine concern that when Allah Ta'ala is praising the muhajirin, praising those who have done hijrah for His sake, and if He is mentioning the men, does that mean that our hijrah is not worthy of acceptance? What have we done wrong? How can we improve to ensure that our hijrah would be accepted? Right? So that is what motivated her to ask. So in 3 different ayat we see this. This is the first one. فَاسْتَجَابَ لَهُمْ رَبُّهُمْ. So let's just read the translation and then we can go back and talk about it a little bit. فَاسْتَجَابَ لَهُمْ رَبُّهُمْ. So their Rabb, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He answered their du'as. And He said, أَنِّي لَا أُضِيعُ عَمَلَ عَامِلٍ مِّنْكُمْ. I will not allow the amal, the labor, the effort of any amil, of one who has done any labor. I will not allow it to be wasted without reward. Whoever has done amal, min dhakarin aw untha, whether male or female. Whoever did any amal, including of course hijrah, which was the question. Whether male or female, I will not allow their good deed to be wasted. Right? I will not allow it to go waste. So that is the red portion in the translation, which is the mahallul istishhad, the point that we are discussing. Ba'dukum min ba'd, that you are from one another. Right? Every girl has a father and every son has a mother. So the males are coming from the females are coming from the male, and vice versa. And if every son has a mother and every daughter has a father, it's also the opposite, of course, that the sons have fathers and the girls have mothers. But we're talking about ba'dukum, some of you, meaning males, min ba'd, are from females, and females are from males. You are from one another. Like the beautiful ayah that we hear repeatedly when the nikah is performed. The first ayah of Surah An-Nisa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhan nas, ittaqu rabbakum, O mankind, fear your Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. الَّذِي خَلَقَكُم مِّن نَفْسٍ وَاحِدَةٍ, who created you from one soul, meaning Adam alayhi salam. وَجَعَلَ مِنْهَا زَوْجَهَا, and from Adam Allah ta'ala created his spouse Hawa. وَبَثَّ مِنْهُمَا رِجَالًا كَثِيرًا وَنِسَاءً, and from both of them Allah ta'ala created so many men and women that are spread throughout the earth. So this is what this بَعْضُكُم مِّن بَعْضٍ. فَالَّذِينَ هَاجَرُوا, so those who do hijrah, right, those who perform the hijrah, immigrated, they left their watan, their homeland. وَأُخْرِجُوا مِن دِيَارِهِمْ, they were literally expelled from their homes. Everyone is attached to their homeland, to their watan, to their home, and they were expelled from their homes. وَأُوذُوا فِي سَبِيلِي, and then they were tortured in my path. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself, when he performed the hijrah, it was a great sacrifice for him. It was a very painful moment in his life. And subhanAllah, it's mentioned that when he was performing hijrah, he left Makkah al-Mukarramah in the opposite direction. He went south instead of going north. And he was in the cave for 3 nights. Thereafter, he came around and bypassed the city after 3 days to go onto the road. And when he just came to the road that goes towards Makkah and Medina, he is going to be proceeding to the Medina side, but he turned around and he saw the road that goes to Makkah. Just seeing the road to Makkah made him cry. And his heart was heavy and sad. And he said, Ya Makkah, innaki atyabul biladi ilayya. O Makkah, you are the ahabbul bilad, the most beloved of all the pieces of earth to me. Lawla anna ahlaki akhrajuni minki ma kharajtu minki abada. If it wasn't that the dwellers of Makkah had forced me to leave, I would never leave you. I would never abandon you. In this day and age when our hearts are so much rusted with sins, كَلَّا بَلْ رَانَ عَلَىٰ قُلُوبِهِمْ مَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. Our hearts are rusted with sins. Still, when we go for Umrah and Hajj, every Muslim, I'm sure, when they are leaving the Kaaba, then they feel the pain of that separation. So it is a sad moment for us. We are there only for a few days, plus we are sinful. Imagine he was born in Makkah, he grew up in Makkah, so it's his home and his attachment to the Kaaba, how painful it was. If you want to go on tangents or talk about stories, then this whole part here, there's so much to discuss, because all of the muhajirun, each one has his own tale. It's not a tale, meaning it's a reality of how much sacrifice they underwent for the path of Allah. Rasulullah's own family, his daughter was attacked when she was performing the hijrah, Zainab radiallahu anha, leading to her miscarriage and eventually her own death. وَقَاتَلُوا وَقُتِلُوا. They fought in the path of Allah, they ended up killing their enemy or being killed by their enemy. All of these individuals, the promise from Allah is لَأُكَفِّرَنَّ عَنْهُمْ سَيِّئَاتِهِمْ. I shall certainly write off and forgive and make kafara of their sins. وَلَأُدْخِلَنَّهُمْ. I shall certainly enter them into Jannat, into gardens. تَجْرِي مِن تَحْتِهَا أي مِن تَحْتِ قُصُورِهَا. That there will be rivers flowing under their palaces. مِن تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارِ. So whenever you see this throughout the Quran, there are multiple explanations of this. Gardens underneath which rivers flow, or beneath which rivers flow. The simple one is min tahti qusuriha, under the palaces. And these rivers are not just of water, but Allah Ta'ala mentions 4 rivers of Jannah. مثل الجنة التي وعد المتقون فيها أنهار من ماء غير آسن. There are rivers of pure water. وأنهار من لبن لم يتغير طعمه, and rivers of milk, but the quality of the milk mentioned is it's not going to expire and go bad. But regarding water, Allah Ta'ala doesn't mention that, but regarding milk He does, because whenever we have milk we are worried about it going bad. So Allah Ta'ala says, لَمْ يَتَغَيَّرْ طَعْمُهُ. The milk will not expire. And then وَأَنْهَارٌ مِّن خَمْرٍ لَذَّةٍ لِلشَّارِبِينَ. And there will be rivers of wine, which will be a source of enjoyment for those who drink. Over here it doesn't mention the fact that it's not going to be intoxicating. That is mentioned in other ayat. Allah Ta'ala mentions that they will not have suda'. They will not have headaches from it. It will not impact their perception. And they will enjoy it without the harmful effects. Naturally, in Jannah there's no harmful effects. And then the last one is asal musaffa, pure honey. So these are the rivers. Thawaban min indillah. This is a reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wallahu indahu husnul thawab. And with Allah it lies all the beautiful rewards. So this ayah was revealed as Umm Salamah radiallahu anha had asked that question. If you look at the context of this, فَاسْتَجَابَ لَهُ, then this is right at the end of Surah Al-Imran. And it just starts off with Allah is accepting. So it begs the question, what is He accepting? What du'as were they making? So there are 5 du'as that preceded. we're not going to go perhaps through all of them, or perhaps we may end up alone. But there are 5 du'as that precede it. And this is a very well-known passage, the last ruku' of Surah Al-Imran. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would recite this in tahajjud time, in his tahajjud du'as. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب. Right? الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض. First dua is ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا. Then ربنا إنك من تدخل النار فقد أخزيته. And then ربنا إننا سمعنا مناديا. And then ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار. Then ربنا وآتنا ما وعدتنا على رسلك. Right? These 5. The reason I wanted to just mention the 5 without going into all the details of each one is because under the tafsir of this فَاسْتَجَابَ لَهُمْ, there are beautiful statements of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, who is from the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, son of Zainul Abidin, Ali Zainul Abidin, who son of Hussein, grandson of Rasulullah, Hussein ibn Ali. Ja'far bin Ali Zainul Abidin bin Hussein bin Ali bin Abi Talib radiyallahu anh. And also Hasan al-Basri rahmatullah alayhi. They mentioned that if anyone is calling out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let him invoke him 5 times, say Rabbana, and ask your need, Rabbana, Rabbana, Rabbana 5 times. And someone said, how did you come up with that? Then he said, look here, after the ibadullah, the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they invoke Allah ta'ala by saying Rabbana 5 times and asking their need, then Allah ta'ala immediately says فَاسْتَجَابَ لَهُمْ. Fa indicates that as a response. In the English translation, the fa is shown by the word so. So meaning, so you have asked, now I will respond. Subhanallah. And to give a response, you know, the verb for it in Arabic is ajaba, yujibu, ijaba, or to give a jawab. But over here it's istajaba. When somebody responds, he could respond, you know, like you applied for a job, you applied to someone's hand for marriage, you are seeking their hand for marriage, you applied to university. You can get a response, but the response could be positive or negative. That you got the job, or your proposal was accepted, or you got admitted to the program that you wanted to apply to. So that's still a response, positive or negative. Whereas istajaba is a very unique choice of the word here, which indicates that it is a positive response. So he's not just giving a response. Somebody makes dua, Allah Ta'ala could say, I'm giving you a response. My response is, no, I'm not accepting you. Na'udhu billah. This will happen as well, but not in the dunya. Allah Ta'ala is ready to accept us in dunya. This will happen after the exam is complete. When the punishment is there in Jahannam, the Ahlul Nar, may Allah protect us, they will be calling out and they will say that Rabbana akhrijna minha, oh Allah, take us out from this fire. فَإِنْ عُدْنَا فَإِنَّا ظَالِمُونَ. If we go back to our sins, then we are true zalims. Give us another chance. So over there's ajaba, there's response, but the response is negative. قَالَ اخْسَأُوا فِيهَا وَلَا تُكَلِّمُونَ. Burn therein and do not speak to me. Because إِنَّهُ كَانَ فَرِيقٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِي, they were my slaves, they would be worshipping me, believing in me. They used to say, رَبَّنَا آمَنَّا فَاغْفِرْ لَنَا ذُنُوبَنَا وَأَنْتَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. And what did you do when they were believing in me? فَتَخَذْتُمُوهُمْ زَخْرِيًّا حَتَّى أَنْسَوْكُمْ ذِكْرِي. You used to mock at them and used to make fun of them. وَكُنْتُم مِّنْهُمْ تَضْحَكُونَ. Used to laugh at them. Those who were being laughed at, إِنِّي جَزَيْتُهُمُ الْيَوْمَ بِمَا صَبَرُوا. Today I will reward them for their being patient. Subhanallah. So this is a positive response. It's not any random response. So male or female, Allah will reward everyone. So the value of an individual in the eyes of Allah Ta'ala is not because he is a male or she is a female. The value is based on who has taqwa and who fears Allah the most. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala very clearly states, إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. That ayah is from Surah Al-Hujurat. In Surah Al-Hujurat, it is not only about male and female, it's about colors and races and cultures and languages and all other metrics and all the different demographics are all mentioned. Ya ayyuhan nas, O mankind, inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha. Male and female is mentioned too, but it's not limited to that here. We have created you from male and female. وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ. And you are different tribes and different groups. So some nations and some cultures, they maintain the tribes, like tribal cultures. That's where the qabail are. And other cultures, they're more like city-based. They don't have a tribal system. So it's shu'uban. Like over here in America, you won't find qabilas or tribes. Right? It's a melting pot of immigrants from all the different lands. The original native Indians, they had tribes. So they would be qabail. But then all the immigrants are shu'ub, different groups. So you have city dwellers, and then you have tribal people. Like in the Arab lands, in Jazakullahu Khairan, in Saudi Arabia, in Yemen, Qatar, Oman, Emirat, the original inhabitants, they have qabail. But then if you go into Egypt, for example, they had a different culture. In fact, they were very distinct from the Arab culture. From the time of the Fara'ina of Misr, the pharaohs, and the Old Kingdom, and Middle Kingdom, and Later Kingdom. So they actually adopted Islam during the Khilafat of Umar ibn al-Khattab. They ended up learning Arabic language, so they became Arab later. They were not originally Arabic speaking. So the shu'ub word would apply there. We have made you in different groups and different qabail. لِتَعَارَفُوا, so you can recognize one another and get to know one another. إِنَّ أَكْرَمْكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. Who is the most honored amongst you in the eyes of Allah? أَتْقَاكُمْ, the one who has the most taqwa, not the one who is a male or female. So under this, we see in Lubab our book, Lubab al-Nuqul fi Asbāb al-Nuzūl of Imam Suyuti, he gives the hadith. The hadith is أخرج عبد الرزاق وسعيد بن منصور والترمذي والحاكم وابن أبي حاتم. All of these books of hadith, they have their respective sanad and chain of narrators. And Umm Salamah رضي الله عنها أنها قالت, Umm Salamah رضي الله عنها, she said to her prophet and her husband, يا رسول الله لا أسمع الله ذكر النساء في الهجرة بشيء. I do not hear that Allah has mentioned the women regarding the women in performing hijrah. Then فأنزل الله, Allah revealed this ayah. Okay. Then another ayah. Remember, the same story is going to lead to multiple ayats. This is from Surah Al-Ahzab, wherein 10 qualities are mentioned. إِنَّ الْمُسْلِمِينَ وَالْمُسْلِمَاتِ. Verily, surely, the Muslim men and Muslim women. The Muslim over here is referring to those who outwardly obey Allah Ta'ala. With their tongue they give the shahada, they perform salat, zakat, som, hajj. These are the arkan of Islam, 5 pillars of Islam. وَالْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ. And those who have iman. That is, iman billah wa malaikatihi kutubihi wa rasulihi wal yawm al-akhir. This is the inner dimension. They believe in their hearts. So, because both of them are mentioned back to back with a waw. So what's the difference? The first one is referring to outward compliance with the body parts, and the second one is referring to belief from the heart. As we saw in the hadith of Jibreel, when Jibreel alayhi salam came and asked Rasulullah, Mal Islam, so Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam spoke about Shahadati la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammad Rasulullah wa iqami salah wa ita'i zakah, sawmi Ramadan wa hajj al-bayt, pillars of Islam, which are all outward. Even the shahada is testifying with the tongue, not necessarily believing with the heart, because someone could be a hypocrite. And what's iman? He said, "An tu'mina," with the heart you believe in Allah, in malaika, kutubihi, rasulihi, wal yawm al-akhir, in the articles of faith. So those who outwardly are complying and inwardly believing. Wal qanitina wal qanitat, and who are very devout. This is now with respect to the quality of their iman. They're not weak believers, but in fact they're very devout in their belief and in their practice. And then specific practices are mentioned. وَالصَّادِقِينَ وَالصَّادِقَاتِ. And those who are truthful, they speak the truth, and also they are true in their intentions, they're true in their actions, they're sincere in their interactions with Allah and the ibadullah, the true men and true women. وَالصَّابِرِينَ وَالصَّابِرَاتِ. And those who are squashing their nafs when it comes in 3 forms: ala ta'atillah, in obeying Allah, an ma'asillah, in abstaining from the disobedience of Allah, and ala al-masaib, at the time of calamities. They remain patient. They do not object against the decision of Allah. وَالْخَاشِعِينَ وَالْخَاشِعَاتِ, and those who humble themselves in front of Allah Ta'ala, male and female. وَالْمُتَصَدِّقِينَ وَالْمُتَصَدِّقَاتِ, and those who give charity, males and females. وَالصَّائِمِينَ وَالصَّائِمَاتِ, those male and female that fast. And then وَالْحَافِظِينَ فُرُوجَهُمْ وَالْحَافِظَاتِ, and those who, this is not, the hafaz in the boy side of his class and hafizat, girl side of his class, right? This hafidina and hafizat is referring to those who guard their private parts. Hafidina furujahum, and the hafizat, they guard their private parts from haram. وَذَاكِرِينَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا وَذَاكِرَاتٍ, and those who remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala abundantly amongst the males and amongst the females. This is the only one that has the word kathiran, because the nature of dhikr is that there is no limit to it. Right? Farad salah is only 5 times a day. Saum is once in a year, 30 days. Hajj is once in a lifetime. Zakat is 2.5%. Yes, you can give sadaqah beyond that, but the zakat would be 2.5%. But the dhikr has no limit. أَعَدَّ اللَّهُ لَهُمْ مَغْفِرًا وَأَجْرًا عَظِيمًا. So this is all of the work up to here. Then from here, أَعَدَّ اللَّهُ is the reward. And the reward is the same for 10 attributes of men and 10 attributes of women back to back are mentioned. Allah has prepared for all of them maghfirah, forgiveness, and ajran azima, and great reward. So they talk about the gender pay gap. There is no gender pay gap when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The pay is the same, the reward is the same. Subhanallah. The gender pay gap is when a male and a female, they do the same job and the male is paid more than the female. Even by those who are claiming to be fair in this between the genders, this is still found. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions the reward is the same. Over here we have again under this ayah, أخرج الترمذي وحسنه من طريق عكرمة عن أم عمارة الأنصارية. There are 2 narrations. One about the Umm Salamah we're talking about, and another hadith of Ammara. She said, قالت ما أرى كل شيء إلا للرجال وما أرى النساء يذكرن بشيء. She said, Ya Rasulullah, how is it that everything in the ayah is talking about men and the women are not mentioned? فنزلت, this ayah was revealed. وأخرج الطبراني بسند لا بأس به عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما قال قالت النساء يا رسول الله, that the woman came and said, Ya Rasulullah, ما باله يذكر المؤمنين ولا يذكر المؤمنات. How is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the believing men and not the believing women? So فنزلت, this ayah was revealed, إن المسلمين والمسلمات. And there's hadith Umm Salamah. أخرج ابن ساعد عن قتادة قال لما ذكر أزواج النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم or لما ذكر أزواج النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قالت النساء لو كان فينا خير لذكرنا. When the wives of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was a mention of them in the Quran, then the rest of the women said, oh, if there was any khair in us, if we had any value, then we would have also been mentioned. Because Allah Ta'ala is mentioning about the men, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also mentioning about the azwaj al-mutahharat, the wives of Rasulullah, but it's only we who are left out. But it must be because there's no khair in us. We don't have any khair, any goodness. فأنزل الله, Allah revealed this ayah, إن المسلمين والمسلمات. Okay, and then we'll end with the third one for tonight. The third one is this ayah from Surah An-Nisa. وَلَا تَتَمَنَّوْا, right? Do not have tamanna, right? Do not start craving. When someone has a desire regarding what a blessing somebody else have, there are 2 types. One is called tamanna حصول نعمة الغير, and one is also a tamanna zawal نعمة الغير. Tamanna, a desire of acquiring the blessing somebody else has. You don't want it to be taken away from them. You just wish you had the same thing. And there's another tamanna which is zawal نعمة الغير, that the blessing should be taken away from the other person. So tamanna حصول نعمة الغير, to desire that you acquire the blessing that somebody else has. You don't want it to be taken away from them. Allah can keep it with them or take it away, but the only thing is you wish you had the same. So if you see somebody is performing salah beautifully, you wish you could. Somebody is a hafiz, you wish you could. Somebody's child is a hafiz, you wish your child would have been a hafiz. So with respect to somebody is giving so much sadaqah, you wish you had money, you can give sadaqah. If somebody, in the dunya as well, somebody is healthy, somebody is wealthy, somebody has blessings of deen or dunya, and you wish you had the same. But you wish well for them as well. You don't want them to be in trouble. This is called ghibtah. And this is, in translation could be in English, to envy someone. And the opposite one, the bad one, the impermissible one is hasad. And hasad is tamanna husul. You tamanna zawal ni'mat al-ghayr. You want the blessing the other person is enjoying to be taken away. And the worst part of this is that he doesn't even necessarily want the blessing himself. He may want it himself, he may not want it himself. Irrespective of that, the most important thing is he's burning with jealousy. This one is not envy, it's jealousy. He just wants that the object of his hasad should not have that blessing any longer. So this is of course a major sickness of the heart and a major sin. And it eats up one's good deeds, كَمَا تَأْكُلُ النَّارُ الْحَطَبِ, the way fire eats up the firewood. So Allah Ta'ala is saying here, do not crave, right? مَا فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ بِهِ بَعْضَكُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. What Allah has given some of you over others. Allah has given some of you some high rank, some of you a lower rank. Some men are so great that no woman can ever be like them. Some women are so great that they are better than the men around them. That's like Maryam alayhi salam. Her mother, Hanna bint Fakhudha, she had made a pledge to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, إِنِّي نَذَرْتُ لَكَ مَا فِي بَطَنِي مُحَرَّرًا. Oh Allah, the baby that is developing, the fetus in my womb, I have dedicated this unborn baby for your khidmah to become an imam in the Masjid al-Aqsa and a scholar of the Torah. فَتَقَبَّلْ مِنْ. Oh Allah, accept it from me. So when she delivered the baby, فَلَمَّا وَضَعَتْهَا, when she delivered the baby, as in mentioned in Surah Al-Imran, قَالَتْ رَبِّ إِنِّي وَضَعَتُهَا أُنْثَى. Then she said, oh Allah, this is now a girl. The girl will not have the role of an imam. وَاللَّهُ أَعْلَمُ بِمَا وَضَعَتْ. Allah knew how great this baby is. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, now she is saying, oh, it's a girl, what am I going to do? How is this girl going to become the imam? She did go through with her oath, with her vow, by dedicating the baby for the khidmah of the deen. So that's why she was in solitude worshipping Allah Ta'ala, and she was getting the fruits from off season, and her uncle Zakaria alayhi salam, who was a prophet, was raising her. So the mother is now sad that it's a girl instead of a boy that she wanted. And logically the ayah should have been that وَلَيْثَ الْأُنْثَى كَالذَّكَرِ, and this girl is not going to be like the boy. But if you look at the ayah, it's the other way around. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says وَلَيْثَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنْثَى. وَاللَّهُ أَعْلَمُ وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنْثَى. That the boy that you wanted, and you wanted him to be an imam and a scholar of the Torah, he's nowhere near the girl that you ended up getting. Because this girl is no normal girl, this girl is Maryam alayhi salam. Inna Allah astafaki wa taharaki wa astafaki ala nisa'il a'alameen. Allah has purified you, chosen you, granted you such a high station above all other women. So in this case, if she had a brother, for example, then the brother should not desire that, oh, I wish I would have been as beloved to Allah like my sister Maryam alayhi salam, or other cousins in her family, etc. بَعْضُكُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. Whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given virtue to one over the other, don't start desiring that. لِلْرِجَالِ نَصِيبٌ مِمَّا اكْتَسَبُوا. For men, they will have a share of whatever they have earned. Whatever good deeds they do, the men will get the reward. And what about the women? وَلِلنِّسَاءِ نَصِيبٌ مِمَّا اكْتَسَبْنَ. They'll get the full share as well of whatever they have earned. There is no reduction for them. وَاسْأَلُوا اللَّهَ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. Continue to pray to Allah, ask from Allah Ta'ala for His fadl, for His grace. إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمًا. Verily Allah is all aware of what you do. So over here, we also have a hadith regarding it. What do we see here? أسباب النزول. روى الترمذي والحاكم عن أم سلمة أنها قالت. Again, Umm Salamah رضي عنها has narrated. She said, يغزو الرجال ولا يغزو النساء. That the men, they go out in ghazawat and in fighting against in jihad fi sabilillah, and the women do not. So throughout history, all of the militaries used to be male units, right? With the exception of in the recent times, where the gender roles are becoming confused, and all the distinctions between the males and the females are being actively removed, but now slowly are being coming back, right? Wallahu alam how long this will last. But everyone knows that for the past couple years or decades now, there was an active effort to remove the distinctions between males and females. يغزو الرجال ولا يغزو النساء. The men, they go out in the jihad and the women do not. There was a unit in the Marines that they were trying out, experimenting, because the women came into the Coast Guard and the Air Force and the Army, but not in the Marines. And then they were given a task to, as a pilot program in the Arizona desert of the heat, with all of the tens and tens of pounds, I don't want to misquote how many 100 or more plus pounds, or probably more, of equipment they had to wear and march for so many miles, like 30 miles in the desert or so. And the whole 50 group that started out, only a couple made it till the end, and the other ones, they did not stop and give up. They continued on until their hips fractured. And the hip doesn't just fracture without a lot of indication of pain, because Allah Ta'ala has given us a system that the bones, when they're hurting, there is a pain sensation, you feel the pain. But it was, they had such a strong will to prove that, hey, we are just like the men. So they kept on going, kept on going, kept on going. Like, if the men can be Marines, if they can be Special Forces, if they can be Navy SEALs and Green Berets and Army Rangers, and why can't we? So kept on going until the hips all fractured. So one of the greatest ironies is that of the feminist movement is that if they present themselves as being pro-woman, in actuality, they're the ones who have made the males the gold standard of value. And they find that they are not being valued, or they're not being given the honor, or they do not have that worth until they become like men. Whereas the Deen teaches us that men have their own standards and women have their own standards, right? They are equal, we've been talking about the entire time today, equal in the eyes of Allah, but they are not identical. They are both equal, they have different responsibilities, as this ayah says here. Look, the men have their responsibilities and they will receive the reward if they do their job, and the women if they do their job. So both will be paid by Allah Ta'ala, but both have different. So they're equal in the eyes of Allah, but not identical. They have different roles, different responsibilities. Of course there is overlap. They have some responsibilities which are shared and some responsibilities which are unique. Just like if you look at human beings, they're both human beings from a biological perspective, but one is a male, one is a female. From the chromosomes from each cell is a male versus a female. The anatomy, they have different body parts, right? The physiology of how those body parts work is different. So if a woman, there are many things that make her unique, and male, there are many things which make a male unique. So if a woman says that, I'm not valued until I'm given the opportunity to do everything a male does, and I feel that I'm not been, recognized by society, then that's just like if a male says that, I do not feel whole or complete unless I can also deliver a baby, or until I can also produce milk and feed a baby. Why is it that only women can do that? We will say something is wrong with this male. So likewise, if a woman, this is وَلَا تَتَمَنَّوْا, don't desire. If there is a father, mashallah, who has a lot of love for his children, he says, okay, why not at least half and half? You have 4 kids, you deliver 2 and I want to deliver 2. Right? It's not, he cannot. If there are 4 kids, the wife will deliver all the 4. If there's 6, she will deliver the 6. If there's 2, she will deliver the 2. If there's 1, she will deliver the 1. he cannot deliver a single baby, no matter how much he wants. So if he has a tamanna, then that gift of motherhood, again, see, but that's the problem. Motherhood is not considered an honor and a gift, it's considered a burden. So there's a problem in the whole perception. So he cannot have that. And if there's roles for men of imamah to be the imam, then the woman should not desire that either. وَاسْأَلُوا اللَّهَ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمًا. Oh, so we were doing the hadith here. She said, يَغْزُو الرِّجَالُ, the men, they go out in fighting, وَلَا يَغْزُو النِّسَاء, and the women do not. وَإِنَّمَا لَنَا نِصْفُ الْمِيرَاثِ, and we have half of the mirath. Meaning, when there's inheritance. Before Islam, the women would get zero inheritance. In fact, they themselves were passed on in inheritance. So if a man died, all his camels and his sheep and his dates and his orchards and whatever business, his sons would inherit. And they would inherit his wives. Because again, it was not limited to 4, there would be 10, 20 wives. And they would end up inheriting their stepmothers. They only would not have relations with their biological mother. But besides that, their stepmothers, they would consider them as their own property. Na'udhu billah. That is why the ayah was revealed, وَلَا تَنْكِحُوا مَا نَكَحَ آبَاؤُكُمْ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ. Do not marry those women that your father married. إِلَّا مَا قَدْ سَلَفَ. Whatever happened in the past is gone. And because Allah is Ghafura Rahima, He'll forgive, but do not do this immoral act. She is your mother. So when Islam came, they were given inheritance. So normally what happens is that there should be a balance in the income and the expenditure, what you are making and then what you are spending. So when it comes to financial responsibility, if they have half the responsibility of men, then they should be inheriting half. But it's actually not like that. When it comes to the fiscal responsibility, they have zero. Meaning Allah Ta'ala has given the entire financial responsibility on the husband. Just like when you go back to the marriage example, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says, الرِّجَالُ غَوَامُونَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ. The men have been made as maintainers and caretakers and responsible for their women. بِمَا فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ بَعْضَهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. Allah has given them this honor and responsibility. وَبِمَا أَنفَقُوا مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ. And because they spend from their money. So just like if there is a responsibility of motherhood, it's upon the mother only, the female in the relationship. And if there's responsibility of finances, is 100% on the father. So if he is extremely poor and hand to mouth and a laborer and the woman is very rich, it's still not farad on her, but it would be from moral, she would be morally obligated, if not legally obligated, to help her family, right? To help her husband. So the financial responsibility is on the male, not only for his wife, not only for his kids, but if his elderly parents, or if there's anyone handicapped in his family, or anyone else who is not able to provide, he has to help them out, right? Subhanallah. And the woman is not responsible on the giving side, but on the receiving side, as a bonus gift from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, she will inherit. Her fiscal responsibility is not half of men, it's zero compared to men. Yet she will get half. So 1 share for male and half of that share for females. Allah Ta'ala over there also says, He could have said that a woman will get, just like I said in English, وَلِلْ أُنْثَى nisfu dhakar, half of a male. But Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala wanted to ensure that the women get a share. So Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala said that let's take the woman's share as 100% confirmed, she is going to get a share. And what about the boy? وَلِلذَّكَرِ مِثْلُ حَظِّ الْأُنْثَيَيْنِ. Yeah, the boy, each boy will get the share of 2 women. Each boy will get the share of 2 women, instead of saying the woman will get half a share of men. So this is what she asked. وَإِنَّمَا لَنَا نِصْفُ الْمِيرَاثِ. So then Allah revealed this ayah, وَلَا تَتَمَنَّوْا مَا فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ. Don't desire that other than what Allah has decided. وأخرج ابن أبي حاتم عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنه قال أتت امرأة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Last hadith of the night is one woman came to Nabi صلى الله عليه وسلم فقالت, she said, يا نبي الله, O O Nabi of Allah, we see the ayah, لِلذَّكَرِ مِثْلُ حَظِّ الْأُنْثَيَيْنِ. Every male will get the share of two females in inheritance. وَشَهَادَةُ إِمْرَأَتَيْنِ بِرَجُلٍ. We also see that in some cases, there are multiple different cases of testimony and witnesses. But in some cases, it's mentioned in the Quran that the testimony of two women is equal to one male. Right? So what happens is that this is in the longest ayah in the Quran in Surah Al-Baqarah. فَاسْتَشْهِدُوا شَهِدَيْنِ مِنْ رِجَالِكُمْ. You should bring two witnesses to the court to prove your case. فَإِن لَمْ يَكُونَا رَجُلَيْنِ. If you don't have two males, فَرَجُلٌ وَامْرَأَتَانِ. Then one male and two females. مِمَّنْ تَرْضَوْنَ مِنَ الشُّهَدَاءِ. Of good witnesses that you like. And Allah Ta'ala says, أَن تَضِلَّ إِحْدَاهُمَا. Such that if one female is out of anxiety and pressure of standing in the dock in the witness stand, فَتُذَكِّرَ إِحْدَاهُمَا الْأُخْرَى. Then she will gain comfort from the companionship of other female who will help remind her. So in the books of tafsir it is mentioned that this ayah by no means indicates that women have half the intelligence of men or half the memory of men and cannot recall the incident. But rather we have to understand the ayah in the context beyond the text. So the context is that women had a lot of haya, number one, or extremely modest, such that if a father asks his daughter that somebody has sought your hand in marriage, has proposed to you, do you agree to this proposal? It was considered a zulm on the girl by stripping her haya, by compelling her to give a verbal yes. So this is considered part of the, I know this is completely out of context of today, but it was considered one of the rahmah and the kindness of the Sharia upon the virgin girl, that her silence was considered a form of acceptance. Sukut yadullu ala al-ijab. If she is a virgin. If she is previously married, she's a widow or a divorcee, then she's been through marriage, so at that point for a second marriage, she would have to give a verbal yes. Then somebody may object that, what about the virgin who doesn't want to get married? Yes, she has the option to say no. So if she verbalizes and vocalizes no, that will be a no. Her permission is not there. And if she says yes, then of course it means yes. The question is if she remains silent. Remaining silent would actually be considered that she is okay. That's how much haya there was. And they would be in their niqab, they would be in their hijab, and they're not mixing with the men. Now what happens is that when you come onto the witness stand, you're in front of the whole court, and because of the nature, just like when you go to the doctor or if you are getting investigated, when you go to the court, the qadi will ask you to remove your covering. So she's going to be flustered by that because she has so much natural haya. He wants to see who he's talking to. So he will remove her niqab and look straight in her eyes. That is very intimidating for her. And then what happens is that based on whatever testimony she gives, then somebody's hand may be cut. Somebody may be in prison, somebody may get lashed, somebody is going to have capital punishment. So there's a lot of pressure. And then you're going to get cross-examined and you're going to have to face they'll start questioning you. So because of that, this ayah does not indicate that women have half the intelligence or half the value, but rather the Quranic ayah explains, أَن تَضِلَّ إِحْدَاهُمَا فَتُذَكِّرَ إِحْدَاهُمَا الْأُخْرَى. If she becomes nervous because of the whole scene she is being put through, which is a traumatic scene for her, traumatic experience, then one woman would give comfort to another woman. Psychological comfort. That's what this ayah is about. Anyway, if we go back to, she quoted this ayah, the questioner, and she said, Allah Ta'ala says about the inheritance, then Allah Ta'ala mentioned about the testimony as well. أَفَنَحْنُ فِي الْعَمَلِ هَكَذَا. So likewise, when it comes to rewards in Jannah, are we also going to get what? Half. So she asked two questions, she presented two cases, and now she's saying, in Jannah, are we also going to get half? إِنْ عَمَلَتِ الْمَرْأَةُ حَسَنَةً كُتِبَتْ لَهَا نِصْفُ حَسَنَةً. Whichever woman does one good deed, she will get the reward of half a good deed. Is that the case? فَأَنزَلَ اللَّهُ. Then Allah revealed this ayah, وَلَا تَتَمَنَّوا. Do not, Don't worry about that. That's not going to happen. Because لِلرِّجَالِ نَصِيب. Men will get what they earned and women will get what they earn. So you're not going to get half the reward, you're going to get full reward. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to understand the roles of men and women, as we learned, by the way, in the actual point that sometimes there may be one incident and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals multiple ayat in answer to the question. This is the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka.